Hey guys, so today we're going to learn on how to shift Windows Server to become a domain controller. So in VirtualBox, sometimes if you press Control or Delete, so if you see what happens is that it goes straight to the computer. So what you need to do is either input this, you come to input keyboard and say insert Control or Delete. Then it will send the command to our virtual machine. There's a way, of course, of how to do it, and I'll show you at a later stage. But for now, let's just concentrate on how to make your Windows Server become a domain controller. So local at 2026. That's our password. So once that is done, voila, we are into Windows Server. So what's the difference between Windows Server and your Windows 11 or Windows 10 machine? Basically, there's not much difference. So the only difference is that in Windows Server, we get this Windows Server Manager. And I'll talk about the network later. If you can see, this computer is trying to access the network which is on my computer. So at the moment, we'll not have that. Let's just keep it for now. So what is Windows Server Manager? Windows Server Manager is a software that enables you to install different kinds of services on a Windows Server machine. So to make this machine become a domain controller, one of the first things that we need to go and do is to install some services. So to do that, one of the things that we need to press is manage server services. So once you click server manager, you come to manage, then you say add roles and features. So blah blah blah, you can do next. So normally what we would like to do is, before we do any of these changes, normally one of the first things that we do is to change the host name. Okay, so why do we need to change the host name? In a controlled environment, in an enterprise setting, normally what happens is we would like to know the names of the computer. So that's why we have to give Windows Server a name instead of it having some funny name like Win7Q blah blah blah. So imagine you have a whole domain of computers, 100 computers, and each computer has a name Win7Q blah blah blah. It's not going to be easy for you to remember this. But if you remember your computer, let's say here, if I name this, let's give it Tiger, right? Let's give it Tiger. So let's restart that now. We don't care. So this is the first thing before you install any services on your computer. So let's just have our name changed from a normal computer to Tiger. That way it's easy for us to manage our domain, get to know all those settings. So for now, what I'm going to do is just disable our network card because I don't want it to interfere with the things on my network. So let's just not attach it. Okay. Input, Control or delete. So local 2026. So the reason I'm detaching the network is right now the network app that I'm using is controlled. There's so many policies, and if I run another domain controller, it might disturb my current system. So you find computers trying to report themselves maybe. So that's why I've disabled my network. But for now, you need to come manage, add roles and features. Okay, let's just wait. Blah 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 blah. Let's try again. Okay, there we go. So before that, let's just verify and say system information. Can even use system. Okay. So remember our computer name was Win77 whatever, but now it's called device name. So there's our RAM, it's only 2 GB RAM, our Windows server. You can always upgrade that, and how you do that I'll show you. It's somewhere in these settings. For now, let's just leave it there. So raw or based features installation. So we just leave it there. Next. So in order to make this a domain controller, the two main features, it's actually one main feature that we need, or let's just say two features because they normally work hand in hand, is DNS. So add feature, validation continue. Then the other one is Active Directory Domain Services. So anytime you want to create a domain user, for you to have a domain, a directory of names, computers, groups, one of the services that you need to install, and the only service, is ADDS, which is Active Directory Domain Service. Alright, so you can always put that in. I like to put it in for features that I'll tell you later. I can also have Federation services on. Let's just do next, 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 install, and there we go. Once this is done, it will tell you. So you can wait for the installation to happen, and once that is done, you can always see the progress bar from there. You can decide to check other things. So right now, if I say users, you see that there's no application to manage users groups group policy. So these policies are only meant for computers or for settings on this computer, but to manage settings for all domain computers, that's the reason for why we installed ADDS. That feature helps us control and manage computers on a domain. So what is a domain? So let me quickly, while we wait for the installation to happen, it's about 5 minutes. So let's take what a domain is. A domain is just simply like a house, right? With our marker. What's happening? Okay. So a domain is just simply like a house. And in a house, let's say we have mother and we have two kids, right? So we can just do mother and kid 1 and kid 2. Let's just lift this up. All right. So in a house, we normally have father, mother, and kids, right? So what actually happens is that this big circle, which is called a house, is equivalent to a domain. And in a domain, we have users. So let's assume we have somebody from accounts. Okay, let's just go home and add father. Okay, you can simply add father. Right. Okay. So what happens in a house is that the father is normally in charge of the kids. Okay. The father makes the rules of the house. And this is what we call an admin of the domain. He is equivalent to a father of the house. An admin is just more like a father or a mother of the house. Okay. So both are in charge of the kids. So in other words, both of these can be admins. 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 And then these two are normal users. Alright. So that's exactly how a domain controller works. Is that we are going to make groups. So in the house sometimes we have girls, the ladies and the guys, right? So this will be its own group. So let's make this black and let's make it blue. So in a house we normally have boys and we also have girls. So in order to, instead of managing the children one by one, instead of calling them, hey John, hey Bob, come here, you just say, boys, come. So that's the same thing of what happens in a domain, is that sometimes we don't want to mention names one by one. So the best thing that we can ever do is just to make groups. And so that's what Active Directory is about, to make users, to make groups, and how to manage them all at once. Okay, don't save. So you can see this is finished, and it always asks you to restart once the thing is done. So run this Active Directory, yada 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 yada. Okay, that's fine. So we come start our machine, doesn't matter. For login purposes you can choose why are you restarting your computer, but we don't need that because right now we're just doing some testing purposes. So continue, and then let's wait for our machine to start. Voila. So let's wait. Okay, let's send control or delete local at 2026. Okay, let's now see what the difference is. Let's check if we have any updated information. There we go. So Active Directory, users and computers. To manage users and computers, use local. To manage users and computers in a domain, use log on as admin user with administrative rights. I'll show you how to log in shortly. All right. Okay, so one of the most important things to ever remember is after you install your Active Directory and DNS, you need to promote this server to domain controller, and I'll make that in the next video.